Hello. Today in this PowerPoint, I will be discussing division and classification and how you can use it to better your writing. To start off, division and classification is a rhetorical mode that breaks down an overall topic into smaller and more specific categories based off of their characteristics. The example shown uses fruits as a topic and red and yellow as subtopics. It then separates apple and strawberry as categories for red fruits and pineapple and banana as categories for the yellow fruits. And at the top, the graph shows how a topic is separated into subtopics, and the subtopics are broken down into categories. So why should you use division and classification? When separating a topic into smaller categories, it can make a topic easier to understand since it goes into deeper detail. It can also provide a new insight to how a topic is viewed. Lastly, it makes your writing more organized since you're dividing information into smaller and more detailed parts. And to the right, the photo shows how music is separated into the different types of music, which would be the subtopics. When using division and classification, it's better to choose topics that you know well or are interested in. This is important because it can make it easier when you're making subtopics and categories for the topic that you chose. This can lead to more interesting parts, which will also enhance your writing. Another important thing to remember when using division and classification is to use a single basis for your topic. If not, this can cause some items to fall into the same subtopics. When writing using classification and division, there's steps to use that can make it easier. First, you should pick a topic that you want to talk about and are actually interested in. And going back to the fruits example from earlier, the topic would be different types of fruit. Next, figure out what items you want to talk about and what they all have in common, which would be the subtopics. And in the example, you would make the subtopics based off of the color, which would be the yellow and red fruits. Then you would separate the subtopics into categories and explain why. Going back to the example, you would make the categories for red fruits, strawberries and apples, and bananas and pineapple as the categories for yellow fruits to match the color of each fruit. Lastly, make sure your division and classification helps the audience have a better understanding of the topic. Be sure that the categories are well thought out and it's clear to why you separated the information the way you did. When using classification and division in an essay or any writing, there's some more ways to make it easier and more organized. First, make sure that your introduction introduces your overall topic of what you want to talk about. The thesis should explain how that topic is divided into subtopics and categories and why. An example is New York, and the example that's shown says, when people think of New York, they often only think of New York City. But New York is actually a diverse state with a full range of activities to do, sights to see, and cultures to explore. In order to better understand the diversity of New York State, it is helpful to break it into 5 separate regions: Long Island, New York City, Western New York, Central New York, and Northern New York. This example takes the overall topic of New York and breaks it into subtopics of New York based off of the different parts of it, which would be the subtopics. The categories would be the activities to do, sights to see, and different cultures of each place in New York. The body paragraphs would be where you explain each subcategory. Using the New York example, there would be a separate paragraph for each region of New York. Lastly, the conclusion is where you bring all of the subtopics and categories back together into one. And the graph to the right shows how the thesis makes the point about the types or categories of something, which would be the overall topic, and then topic sentences make the points about the first type and the second type of what you're talking about, which would be the subtopics. And the supporting paragraphs would be the details of the categories. And these are my references.